2015 for video games was really good. Very good. But, just like any year, it had its piles. Oh, it had its piles. But, admittedly, it didn't have as many piles as you would expect. Only about 5 of them. So, let's do the top 5 worst games of 2015. 5. Battlefield Hardline, one of the most uninspired shooters I played last year. Man, and when it came to the multiplayer, what a disappointment, because Battlefield is never really known for its campaigns, or its, good campaigns at least. But we all expect a great multiplayer, and Battlefield Hardline had a very mediocre to bad one, I would say, because the game itself, when it gets to the multiplayer, it's glitchy, the frame rate drops, connection issues all over the place, and the modes themselves, the new ones, are cops and robbers themed, kinda, but it really didn't even feel like I was playing a cops and robbers game. It just felt like I was playing another Battlefield game, and it just felt like a cheap cash-in on the Battlefield series. They were like, hey, we haven't had a Battlefield game in a year and a half, let's make another one. So they did, and the campaign itself wasn't great enough to carry the multiplayer, and usually it should be the other way around, where the multiplayer carries the campaign, but the campaign was like highlighted as a big thing, and it really wasn't. It was just a very, very uninspired shooter, and that's why it's on this list. 4. The Order 1886. Again, a game that just really just let everybody down. It's a game that looks beautiful. It really does. It's one of the most gorgeous games I've ever played. Ever. It's so gorgeous, so cinematic, and that's about it. I mean, the voice acting is good too, I guess, and the sound effects and all that. The sound design is great. So, okay, graphics and sound design do not make a video game. When it gets to the video game, there's barely any there, and what is there is extremely uninspired, just like Battlefield Hardline. It is a very cookie-cutter third-person shooter with some awful boss fights. Like, the boss fights are just ridiculously bad. They're just button mashers. Not even button mashers. They're the QTEs. And a lot of the gameplay, or quote-unquote gameplay, is QTEs. But when it's just a third-person shooter, it's just not a very good one. The story itself isn't really that interesting either. It has an interesting setup, it has an interesting premise, and it has an interesting environment. But it's not an interesting story, sadly. And it ends with one of the most cliched ways to end any story ever, and that would be a gunshot noise and then fading to black to the credits. Oh my god, that's one of the most cliched things in movies or stories in general. It's so bad. So overall, The Order is definitely a sadness when it comes to what it could have been. So hopefully the next one will be better, if there ever is a next one. 3! Devil's Third, which, do not get me wrong, I actually enjoy this game. I do. It's a terrible game. Completely awful. Tons of bugs. Looks like shit. It's a bad game. But I enjoy this game pretty much for all those reasons. It's all those, except it's not painful to play, which we'll get to my next 2 games in a minute. But this game is not painful to play, really. I mean, the last 2 games weren't painful either. So, really, the first 3 spots in this list are games that are not painful. This game is not, and it's actually kind of fun just to watch everything happen. All the bugs, all the glitching corpses, all of the insane blood and gore everywhere, the ridiculous Grindhouse-esque story, the writing is awful, the characterization is like ridiculously bad. It's a bad game. There's no way getting around it. It really is. It's truly awful, and it belongs on this list. But I had a good time with it. It has inspired combat. It tries, at least. Melee mixed with first-person and third-person shooting. It tries. The multiplayer itself is kind of unique, so it tried there. And again, like I said, it's a very Grindhouse-esque story. Overly ridiculous. The characterization, the writing, the story itself, it's all bad, but it's kind of fun in its own way. But it's just a buggy, hot mess. You can't believe this game retails for $60. Hell, you would have a hard time finding it at this point. So you might actually have to pay $80 to $90 for this game. So, hey, it's ridiculous that it goes for that much because of just how bad it really is. But I know all I've been saying is that it's a bad game. It's a bad game, but it's very fun. But that's really the only way to explain this game. It's bad. You can't believe what you're seeing sometimes, how bad and glitchy it is. But it's still fun to play. It's not painful. It really isn't. It never frustrates you, which I have to commend. So overall, there you go. Devil's Third is a bad game, definitely. 2! Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Ooh, wow. Talking about a glitchy hot mess. The developers, whatever your names are, I didn't bother to search it because I don't give a shit. Whoever you are, stop. Just make indie games. Make other things. Don't do this anymore. Do not make a Tony Hawk game ever again, which most likely at this point, considering how bad this did and how bad it was, I don't think we'll ever see another Tony Hawk game again. But if you ever have a chance to do it, say no. Say, Activision, we want to keep our pride. We don't want to do it anymore because this game is embarrassing. Quite frankly, it's lucky it's not #1. It was almost #1, but the #1 game pissed me off a little bit more considering what the license is. You're lucky that game came out because this game is so freaking terrible. 2015 didn't have that many terrible games, but the last 2 games on this list really make up for how unbad everything else was. Holy shit. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, like I said, glitches everywhere, loading times that are absolutely ridiculous, just superfluous multiplayer. Like, the multiplayer is just, like, I don't even know what the hell they were trying to do. You get to skate with other people that you never interact with or whatever. Like, how is that multiplayer? It's awful. Like, it was trying to do like a Destiny where you all play in the same world, but you don't actually have to play with each other. But like in Destiny, you can fight creatures together and stuff, and then you can go on your separate ways. This game, you just skate. That's it. You skateboard. Like, you can't like do tricks together or something. It's just you skateboard with a bunch of people. That's about it. There's barely any areas to play in. There's like 6, and they all look like shit. The graphics are abysmal. Completely outdated. I don't know who thought these graphics were even close to Xbox One or PS4. They're not even 360. These could run perfectly fine on a PS2, Xbox Original, or a Wii easily. It could run on a PS Vita easily. It's an awful looking game. It plays poorly. It's very easy to pull off tricks in this game. The ground pound thing, I don't know what the fuck that was about. I don't even get it. Why would you want a ground pound thing? So you can get to the ground quicker, so you can grind? But it was a feature that really wasn't needed, especially since you had all this other bad stuff that you could easily been paying attention to and fixing. The glitches, the ridiculous physics, the awful graphics, the superfluous multiplayer, just the long-ass loading times. It's just a bad game. The $60 price tag. That's one thing. First of all, the HD remake that I'm pretty sure the developers of this also made, at least that was only like $15. And it had almost as much, maybe even more content than this game did. What? Just get that. I mean, it's not great, but it's better. It's way better. If you really want a Tony Hawk game that feels kind of modern, get that. Or just get Project 8 or American Wasteland, or get Thug 2. Just get the original 4 Tony Hawk games. Those are way better. So there you go. That is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. It's awful. One. This game sucks. Oh my god. Godzilla the video game. Not only is this game horribly disappointing, but I had pretty high expectations considering now Godzilla is back. At least in America, it's back. Okay, people, for the most part, enjoyed that new movie that came out, 2014. It was a big hit. People really, really liked that new Godzilla. Not the movie itself, but they liked that Godzilla in particular. And after that movie, we wanted a Godzilla that just would go around smashing other monsters and smashing buildings and all that stuff. So, perfect time for a brand new Godzilla game. Hell yeah. Oh, wow. Not only did they make the worst Godzilla game I've ever played, but they've made one of the worst games I've ever played, period. Godzilla the game, hell, when I reviewed it the first time, if you want to go check that out, it's one of the only reviews for a video game I did last year. Go check it out. When I reviewed it, I gave like a 2.5 out of 10. Way too high. After thinking about it, how broken this game is, how just unentertaining everything is, how little content they put in here, and how the multiplayer is completely broken and very one-sided, and how they just hide all the characters from you until you play the game over and over and over again. And some of these challenges are just so freaking impossible and not entertaining at all, and you have to destroy the generators, destroy the generators, destroy the generators. That is your main objective throughout the entire single player campaign, which, by the way, the single player campaign is like 2 hours long, and that's it. And you have to play it over and over and over and over and over and over again if you want to get every single thing, and it's just mind-bogglingly bad. And guess what? Guess what the fucking price tag was? It was a freaking $60 game when it first came out. Maybe it was $50, but even if, it should have been a $15 downloadable game, or it should have never came out until it was actually complete, which I highly doubt this was the complete game. I have a feeling they were just like, yeah, screw it, just release it. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? Just release it, let's make some money. And that's what they most likely didn't do, because I don't think anybody bought this game, because it was a pile of shit. And man, it could have been good. Really could have been. The King of the Monsters deserves better, and guess what? It had better in the past. Play the Godzilla game on GameCube, Destroy All Monsters Melee. That's a fun game. And guess what? It probably looks just as good, if not better, than this game. So yeah, there you go. Godzilla the game is a pile of shit. If you want to hear me yell and scream more about it, go watch the review, because I hate this game. But anyway, there you go. That is the worst game of 2015 that I can think of. Godzilla the game. What a pile this game was. Do not play it. Do not buy it. Do not look at it. If you see it at GameStop, throw it in the trash. If there's a trash can in your GameStop, throw it in their trash. If you can't find a trash can in the building, go into the back, into the dumpster area, and toss that shit in, because it's an awful game. Completely awful. Or actually, better yet, just don't go to GameStop, period. So anyway, there you go. That is my top 5 most or worst games of 2015. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and until next time, goodbye.